Hi, this is Sleep Flow Studio, your quiet corner for gentle, slow stories that drift like clouds. Settle in, breathe softly, and allow this sleepy tale to carry you into rest, where absolutely nothing important happens. In an age when kingdoms rose and fell with the clash of swords and the thunder of hooves, there also existed some extraordinarily uneventful regions, places so slow, so peaceful, and so unspectacular that even the historians would nod off halfway through their scrolls. Among these peaceful kingdoms was a stretch of land known as the Mild Realms. The Mild Realms were not famous for battles, treasures, or grand heroics. Instead, they were known for something else entirely. A curious, inexplicably sleepy parade of royalties who really, truly enjoyed being pleasantly high. Not on adventure or thrill, but on herbs, aromas, incense, and the quietest forms of joy known to medieval life. These royalties adored nothingness. They adored stillness. They adored sitting so quietly that moss considered growing on them. And so this is their story. A very slow story. A very boring story. The perfect story for sleep? The Hall of Gentle Drowsiness. Inside the castle of King Humulus the Mild, everything was soft. Soft cushions, soft voices, soft footsteps that sounded like lint landing on a pillow. King Humulus ruled over the Mild Realms, and he had a hobby. Not a very exciting hobby, but a hobby nonetheless. He enjoyed gathering a list, a long, slowly updated list of all the medieval royalties who loved being high on calming herbs, dreamy incense, and relaxing charms. His list had a grand title. The king didn't rush to finish the list. In fact, he wrote so slowly that entire seasons passed between sentences. Sometimes he'd lift his quill, pause, think, and by the time he wrote a single word, another kingdom would already be building a new tower or fighting a war or inventing a new kind of spoon, but not King Humulus. He preferred the slow life, the most unhurried morning in history. It was morning in the Mild Realms, although you would hardly notice. Nothing moved quickly enough to indicate the passing of time. The sun rose slowly. The breeze wandered lazily through the castle windows. Even the dust motes seemed to swirl with a deliberate, leisurely elegance. King Humulus inhaled the faint aroma of dreamleaf, a mild herb burned in tiny clay bowls for no purpose other than to make everyone slightly floaty and extremely uninterested in arguments. He leaned back in his chair, a chair so cushioned that it felt like sitting on a loaf of warm bread, and blinked slowly. He wasn't tired. He wasn't awake either. He existed in that serene middle space where thoughts feel like clouds drifting through an endless sky. He exhaled contentedly. "Ah," he whispered. "It is finally time to continue my list." He picked up his quill. He dipped it in ink. He stared at the page. Then he forgot why he had lifted the quill in the first place and set it gently back down. A normal king might feel embarrassed. King Humulus simply nodded with satisfaction at having completed such a complex task as thinking for a moment. Royalty number 1. Queen Lavendaria the Light-Headed. The first name on his list belonged to Queen Lavendaria, ruler of the kingdom of Aramaris, whose palace was perfumed with so many flowers that travelers often fell asleep before reaching the front gates. Queen Lavendaria wasn't just fond of sweet-smelling herbs. She was known to walk with a permanent dreamy smile, as if the entire world was a pleasantly blurry watercolor. Her crown was made of woven lavender stems. Her robes smelled of chamomile. Her favorite pastime was staring out of windows and appreciating the shape of distant hills for several hours at a time. Humulus admired her dedication to calmness. He wrote on his scroll slowly, 1 Queen Lavendaria the Light-Headed. Loves lavender steam baths and drifting into soft daydreams. Then he paused for a very long time. So long, in fact, that a palace servant walked in, placed a fresh cup of herb tea beside him, and quietly shuffled out, without the king even noticing. A glimpse at the other royalties, but not too quickly. King Humulus glanced at the names he intended to add next. But he didn't rush. After all, this list would record a duke who invented a pillow so soft it caused political problems, a princess who believed clouds were slow-moving castles, a sultan who held meetings while lying on a carpet staring at lanterns, a baron who insisted his castle walls be painted the exact color of a sleepy afternoon, and many more. But Humulus felt no need to hurry into describing any of them. Instead, he took a long, meditative sip of tea. It tasted like absolutely nothing. The perfect flavor for the mild realms, the castle's quietest corridor. To get inspiration for his writing, the king decided to take a walk. A short walk. A very slow walk. A walk that would barely qualify as movement at all. He drifted down the quietest corridor in the castle, a place so calm that even echoes refused to raise their voices. The tapestries showed scenes of other kingdoms doing exciting things, like riding horses into battle, negotiating trade deals, or building ships. But the tapestries in the mild realms showed things like a man yawning politely, a woman gently napping beneath a tree, a cat asleep on another cat, a farmer harvesting exactly one onion very slowly. So peaceful, so uneventful, perfect. 2. Sir Hazelhelm the Easily Distracted. King Humulus paused in front of a painting of Sir Hazelhelm, a knight famous for not very much except his remarkable ability to get distracted by floating dust. Hazelhelm loved a particular herb blend called Misty Morn, which made everything look as if it were slightly underwater. One time, he arrived 3 days late to a jousting tournament because he stopped to admire a snail crossing the path. Humulus smiled fondly and added to his list, 2. Sir Hazelhelm the Easily Distracted. Once followed a butterfly so far he accidentally ended up in another kingdom. The king nodded in satisfaction. 2 entries in one morning. This was record-breaking productivity. Nothing happens for a while. And for a long stretch of time, nothing happened. The king sat. The herbs burned softly. The castle hummed with gentle stillness. A bird outside chirped once, then seemed to realize it was in the wrong kingdom for that level of enthusiasm, and flew away quietly. Even the quill on the king's table seemed to relax. Everything was peaceful, slow, soft, and wonderfully dull, where events continue not happening. The mild realms remained exactly as they always were, quiet enough to hear a feather land, slow enough that even time seemed to walk instead of run. King Humulus had returned to his desk, though returned was a strong word. It was more accurate to say he gently drifted back like a leaf on a lazy breeze. He sat. He blinked. He exhaled softly. There were still many royalties to describe, and Humulus felt no sense of urgency. Urgency had been outlawed in the mild realms centuries ago, because it caused people unnecessary excitement. He adjusted his crown, which immediately slid slightly sideways because even his hair refused to hold tension. Finally, he picked up his quill, very slowly, very peacefully, and thus the list continued. 3. Duchess Slumbra of Dozeland. Humulus began thinking of Duchess Slumbra, the ruler of Dozeland, a kingdom so sleepy that its official flag depicted a pillow floating on a cloud. Slumbra was famous for her gardens of snooze petals, flowers known to release a gentle, drowsy scent whenever touched by sunlight. Her afternoons consisted of sitting beneath willow trees, drinking lukewarm mint mallow tea, and telling long stories that went nowhere at all. Visitors sometimes fell asleep mid-sentence. Slumbra considered this a compliment. Humulus wrote, Duchess Slumbra of Dozeland, known for gardens that make visitors instantly relaxed and conversations that make them even more relaxed. He paused. He stared out the window for 15 minutes. Then he nodded, satisfied. First, the Velvet Twins, a Prince Murmur and Princess Murmina. The next entry required 2 names, though the twins were so similar that most people thought they were the same person simply moving very slowly from room to room. Prince Murmur and Princess Murmina lived in the Velvet Keep, where every surface, walls, floors, tables, staircases, was padded with velvet so thick that footsteps made no sound at all. The twins often burned moon whisper incense, a drifting, silky smoke that made time feel like a soft blanket settling over the world. Their hobbies included synchronized sighing, staring at the moon until their necks hurt, collecting feathers for emotional reasons, whispering absolutely everything. When they visited other kingdoms, ambassadors would lean in to hear their voices, only to fall asleep halfway through. Humulus added, 4. Prince Murmur and Princess Mormina. Speak softly, move softly, exist softly. Highly committed to the art of gentle drifting. 5. Grand Sultan Kushar the Soft-Footed. From the distant sands of Somnaria came Sultan Kushar, a man so devoted to comfort that he banned any chair with sharp corners. Kushar's palace was filled with hanging lanterns that flickered dreamily, creating patterns on the walls that swayed like heat waves. He enjoyed breathing the aromatic smoke of calmroot resin, which smelled like warm evenings and distant fireplaces. His rule was unhurried. Decrees were announced in a whisper. Meetings were held lying on cushions, and it was illegal to startle anyone, even accidentally. Travelers said entering Somnaria felt like walking into a warm bath of air. Humulus wrote, 5. Grand Sultan Kushar, a ruler who believed every political decision should be made while reclining comfortably. He paused again. He wasn't tired. He simply enjoyed the act of pausing. 6. Lady Yonel the Eternally Relaxed. Lady Yonel, from the Valley of Drifting Echoes, was known across the land for her talent. She could yawn so gently, so gracefully, that everyone within a 30-meter radius would yawn too. Her relaxation rituals were legendary, soaking her hands in warm lavender milk, listening to moss grow, a slow but rewarding hobby, inhaling the sweet vapor of dream dew, avoiding any thought that required more than one brain cell. Yonel owned a pet turtle named Rush, humorously named because it never rushed anywhere. Humulus added, Grace Lady Yonel possesses the rare ability to make entire rooms sleepy just by existing. A very long, uneventful afternoon. Once he'd finished the 6th entry, King Humulus leaned back. The castle was silent. A servant passed by holding a tray of herb cookies, walking so carefully that one could barely tell movement had occurred. Outside, a cloud drifted, then drifted slightly more, and then took a tiny break from drifting. Humulus watched it with deep admiration. Yes, a perfect afternoon. He placed his quill down, feeling that he had achieved enough for one day. After all, 6 entire royalties now filled his scroll. That was practically a historical event in the mild realms. Royalties that are 7 to 10. Soft, slow, dreamy, and perfect for sleep, where time moves even slower than before. By the time King Humulus returned to his writing desk, a full day had passed. Or maybe it was 2 days. Time behaved oddly in the mild realms, stretching, curling, pausing for tea, then wandering off to take a nap. Humulus sat down and felt the soft cushion embrace him like a sleepy cat. He inhaled the faint aroma of driftwood incense, burning in a lazy ribbon of smoke beside him. Ah, he whispered. A perfect moment, Ma, for 4 more names. He gently unrolled the scroll, which made the softest fluff sound, almost apologetic for disturbing the silence. And the list continued. Course Baron Drowswick the Feather-Minded. Baron Drowswick ruled from a tower that leaned slightly to the left, Not because of poor engineering, but because the Baron kept forgetting to remind the builders to straighten it. Drowswick adored soft cloud powder, a substance sprinkled in warm water to create a vapor so gentle that one inhalation could erase half your to-do list from memory. His castle staff often found him standing in hallways forgetting where he was going, staring lovingly at curtains he thought were rivers, whispering, "Yes, yes, the clouds have opinions," to no one, taking naps mid-conversation with foreign diplomats. Despite his forgetfulness, everyone liked him. He was too calm to dislike. King Humulus wrote, "Course Baron Drowswick frequently forgets tasks but never forgets to relax." He nodded in approval. Yes, that captured the Baron perfectly. Empress Silka of the Floating Court. Far to the east, where mountains met mist, ruled Empress Silka, whose throne room was filled with gauzy curtains that floated in the slightest breeze. The floating court got its name because Silka preferred to conduct all meetings while reclining on a gently swaying hammock. She believed that rocking motion improved decision-making. Her incense of choice was sky blossom drift, which gave rooms a soft, distant glow, as if everything were lit by memory instead of sunlight. Visitors described her court as dreamlike, slow as melting honey, filled with echoes that never quite finished, and wonderfully confusing. Silka often spoke in long, winding metaphors. Sometimes, by the time she finished one, people forgot what question they had asked. Humulus wrote, 8. Empress Silka, known for ruling from hammocks and speaking in metaphors so soothing, most people fall asleep halfway through. He paused to make sure the ink dried. It dried slowly, appropriately so. Royalty number 9, Lord Pillowford the Cushioned. Lord Pillowford had an unusual obsession. He believed every object could be improved by adding cushions. Chairs cushioned, walls cushioned, ceilings cushioned, horse saddles triple cushioned. The royal treasury filled mostly with cushions. People joked that if Pillowford ever fainted, he would bounce 3 times before landing. He also loved burning featherfall resin, which had a warm, cozy aroma reminiscent of first waking up from a pleasant nap. His motto was, "Why walk firmly when you can walk softly?" King Humulus added, 9. Lord Pillowford, man of cushions, dreams, and no sharp corners whatsoever. He underlined no sharp corners for emphasis. 10. Princess Driftina of the Wandering Thoughts. Princess Driftina was perhaps the most absent-minded royalty in all recorded history. Her mind drifted like a dandelion seed on a summer breeze, never staying in one place for long. A typical conversation with Driftina went like this. Person: Your Highness, shall we discuss the harvest report? Driftina: Of course, but first, do clouds ever get lonely? Or, Advisor: A messenger from the north has arrived. Driftina: Has he ever wondered what Moss dreams about? Her favorite relaxing blend was moon melt vapor, which made everything feel soft around the edges, just how she liked it. Driftina wasn't irresponsible, just peacefully unavailable to reality. King Humulus wrote, 10. Princess Driftina thinks thoughts that drift away before anyone can catch them. He signed the bottom of the entry with a soft flourish, a moment of very soft reflection. After completing the 10th entry, Humulus rested his hands atop the scroll. The castle was as quiet as a lullaby half remembered. Somewhere outside, a cow mooed sleepily. Even the cows in the mild realms respected the mood. Humulus smiled with great satisfaction for accomplishing so much. 10 royalties. That was almost too much excitement for one day. He took a sip of tea that tasted like dew on a calm morning. Then he whispered to himself, only 5 left. But slowly, very slowly. Top 15 medieval royalties that loved being high. A very boring sleep story. Part 4, the last of the sleepy royalties. Royalties 1115. By the time King Humulus settled again at his writing table, the sky had turned a gentle shade of sleepy gold. It was either sunrise or sunset. No one could tell, and no one in the mild realms cared enough to check. The king's fingers hovered over the scroll like a feather unsure where to land. His quill had absorbed the calmness of the castle, and didn't want to rush either. There were only 5 names left. 5 final royalties who loved drifting, dreaming, and dwelling in pleasantly hazy states of medieval relaxation. Humulus inhaled the aroma of soft veil steam, a subtle blend of herbs that smelled like warm blankets, and began to write once more. Royalty Marge 11. Countess Mellowwind of the Whispering Pines. Countess Mellowwind lived deep within a forest where the pine trees swayed with a rhythm so slow you could fall asleep watching them. Her favorite pastime involved lying on a hammock strung between 2 old whispering pines while burning evergreen mist incense, a scent that made even the wind feel drowsy. Those who visited her estate often reported, forgetting why they came, forgetting where they came from, forgetting what they were talking about mid-sentence, and feeling extremely okay with all of that. Mellowwind believed the world moved too quickly and that every thought should be stretched like dough before being spoken. King Humulus wrote, to the Countess Mellowwind, a woman so calm pine trees slow their swaying in her presence. He paused, feeling the soft glow of her memory settle in his mind. 12 King Nimbus the Cloud Dreamer, far above the mountains in a castle perched so high it brushed the clouds, ruled King Nimbus. Nimbus was obsessed with the sky, its shapes, colors, moods, and especially its drifting softness. He often burned vapor leaf essence, which created gentle puffs of sweet-smelling air that resembled miniature clouds wandering around his throne room. Nimbus spent hours staring out windows, sketching clouds, naming clouds, forgetting the names of clouds, starting the process all over again. People admired him for his kindness but questioned his practicality. He once postponed an entire state meeting because he saw a particularly fluffy cloud and needed to watch it until it disappeared. Humulus added, 12. King Nimbus loves clouds so much he once declared them honorary citizens. He smiled softly as the ink settled. 13. The dreaming Duchess Arluna. Duchess Arluna was famous throughout the lands for her sleepwalking poetry. She never wrote when awake, only at night, drifting gently through the castle with her quill trailing behind her. Her staff burned slumber veil resin to keep her calm during these nighttime wanderings, producing a dreamy haze through which she glided silently. Her poetry was slow, wandering and made up of thoughts that seemed to drift from dreams themselves. Some said reading her work could make even the most awake mind feel pleasantly foggy. Humulus wrote, 13. Duchess Arluna creates dream poems while half asleep, drifting through moonlit hallways. He admired his own calm handwriting. It seemed sleepier with each entry. 14. Sir Driftwood the Gentle Knight. Sir Driftwood was a knight in title only. He had never fought, never trained, and never lifted anything heavier than a cup of chamomile tea. He spent his days wandering the coastline of the mild realms, listening to waves roll in with slow rhythmic sighs. His armor was padded inside with soft wool so he wouldn't accidentally make loud clanking noises. He inhaled sea breeze herb vapor, which made everything smell faintly of oceans and daydreams. Visitors described him as calm, kind, so slow-moving that birds often landed on him, and occasionally mistaken for a piece of furniture. Humulus wrote Sir Driftwood, the quietest knight alive, possibly the quietest person alive. He placed a gentle dot at the end of the sentence, feeling accomplished. Queen Serapha of the Floating Lanterns. Finally, the 15th name. Queen Serapha ruled over Lanternmere, a kingdom famous for thousands of lanterns floating above the palace gardens every night. Their soft glow created a warm haze across the kingdom, perfect for late-night wandering and gentle thinking. Serapha adored glow-stem smoke, an herbal blend that released sparkling embers when burned, drifting upward like tiny golden stars. Her evenings consisted of releasing lanterns into the sky, making wishes she couldn't remember, watching smoke patterns twist softly, and humming songs so slow they barely counted as melodies. Her subjects adored her serenity. Whenever tensions arose, Serapha lit a single golden lantern. By the time it floated away, everyone forgot what they were arguing about. Humulus wrote thoughtfully, 15. Queen Serapha. Her lanterns float like dreams, carrying worries far into the night sky. He set the quill down. The list was complete, all 15. A monumental achievement in the mild realms. A very sleepy moment of completion. King Humulus looked over the scroll, reading each name with a slow, proud nod. Outside, the breeze whispered, carrying the scent of warm herbs. A lantern drifted past the window, no one knew from where. Perhaps Queen Serapha had released one in celebration of nothing in particular. Humulus felt peace wash over him like a soft blanket. The list was done, but the story wasn't quite over yet. A final chapter remained. A closing part where absolutely nothing exciting would happen at all. Just the way the mild realms preferred it. The mild realms were quieter than ever. In the great castle of King Humulus the Mild, the air shimmered with the faintest dust of incense and drifting afternoon silence. The king sat before his completed scroll. The ink dried into gentle curls of calmness. He had finally written the list. All 15 of the most peacefully high, pleasantly dreamy, endlessly relaxed royalties in medieval history. Humulus let the moment stretch long, longer, even longer still. He didn't want to rush this feeling of quiet accomplishment. The castle seemed to breathe with him. Slow in, slow out, soft as a cloud folding into another cloud. A kingdom at perfect rest. Beyond the castle walls, the kingdom moved with the unhurried rhythm of a lullaby. The rivers flowed so slowly they looked like melted glass. The trees swayed as if half asleep. The birds whispered their songs instead of singing them. The villagers walked in gentle steps as if the ground itself were a sleeping creature. Even the animals lounged in the shade. Cows stretched lazily in the grass. Sheep blinked in slow motion. Cats napped in doorways, ignoring everything, including time. The mild realms were always peaceful, but today felt like the entire world had exhaled at once. The gathering of the 15. King Humulus decided it would be fitting, though not urgent, to share his list with the 15 royalties themselves. So he hosted a gathering, not a banquet, not a festival, just a gathering. A soft one. Each of the 15 royalties arrived at their own slow pace. Duchess Slumbra yawned her way through the gates. The velvet twins glided in like drifting silk. Sultan Kushar reclined on a portable cushioned throne. Lady Yonel's presence triggered several gentle yawns across the garden. Cloud-loving King Nimbus stared dreamily upward the entire time. Duchess Arluna drifted in half asleep, quill still behind her ear. Sir Driftwood walked so quietly he startled no one. Queen Serapha arrived surrounded by floating lanterns like sleepy fireflies. They gathered beneath the great willow tree in the palace garden. A willow so drooping and relaxed it looked like it, too, was halfway through a nap. Soft carpets were laid on the grass. Herbal tea brewed at the pace of a slow sunset. Lanterns swayed in the air like floating sighs. Humulus reads the list. The king unrolled his scroll. Everyone leaned only slightly forward, careful not to disturb the tranquil air. Humulus read each name, slowly, pausing after every few words to let the peacefulness settle deeper. As he spoke, something beautiful happened. The air thickened with warmth. The lanterns glowed faintly brighter. The garden felt like a cradle made of soft wind. Time slipped into a relaxed murmur. And one by one the royalties smiled lazily, nodding with dreamy approval. No one objected. No one debated. No one compared themselves to the others. It was the calmest moment recorded in any royal gathering. A gentle silence falls. When King Humulus finished reading, nobody spoke at first. Not because they were thinking, not because they were emotional, but because silence was simply perfect. A few soft sounds drifted through the garden. A sigh, a yawn, the whisper of a breeze, the faint bubbling of the tea cauldron, the rustle of leaves moving just barely. No one felt the need to fill the silence. It filled itself. The garden became a living lullaby, a shared dream. Eventually, the 15 royalties and King Humulus all reclined on cushions arranged in a gentle circle beneath the willow. They watched the lanterns rise into the sky. One lantern floated above another. One drifted behind a cloud. Another spun lazily before settling into a steady upward path. The sky looked like soft ink spilled across silk. Someone, not sure who, whispered, "We could stay like this forever." And everyone else, without moving more than their eyelids, agreed. The herbs burned low. The lanterns flickered softly. The willow tree swayed. And the royalties slowly drifted into a shared half-dream. A dream of clouds and soft fields, of warm breezes and gentle thoughts, of long wandering afternoons that never demanded anything, of peaceful kingdoms where rest was not a luxury but a way of life. In this shared dream, nothing happened. No battles, no crises, no speeches, just drifting, breathing and existing in the calmest way possible. The mild realms sleep. Eventually, night blended into the dream and the dream blended into the night. The mild realms glowed softly beneath the lantern-lit sky. Every window flickered with warm, sleepy candlelight. Every home hummed with calm. Every creature found rest. And at the center of it all, under the willow tree, the 15 royalties slept like ancient statues carved from serenity. King Humulus slept too, scroll resting gently against his chest. His list complete, his story told, his kingdom at peace. And slowly, so very slowly, the lanterns drifted higher into the star-filled sky, each one carrying a whisper of calmness into the world, each one lighting the way toward sleep.